Pollock are one of my favourite species to hunt. They're a majestic fish that glide through the water, almost melting out the veers and just disappearing back into it like a ghost. Compared to the bass, which are pretty obvious, the pollock aren't. They're sometimes quite hard to spot. North Wales has some superb spearfishing, mostly for bass, but there's good numbers of pollock as well. It's very popular with all sorts of water users, and judging by the scenery, you can see why. This is Bear Grylls' house here, so the top G like Bear Grylls lives there, you know it must be good. In the 2 sessions I'm going to show you, headed out with a friend of mine, Simon Byrne, in his boat, and we explored some really incredible places. Large numbers of seals abound on this coastline. I think that's a really good sign. The fish stocks are pretty healthy. Think about how much fish a 400 kilo seal must eat in a day. You know, it must really go through quite a lot. Now, I started out diving by this island, which can be quite a good area. And there's always that anticipation of being dropped off at the drift dive. And I dropped in, and there were huge numbers of fish. Straight away, they were present. And I was really hoping that a big pollock would just melt out the gloom out of this shoal. However, somewhat unsurprisingly, I was absolutely mobbed by seals. Not really a shock, is it, when there's 50 of them sat on the rock that you're spearing next to? But I was hoping they wouldn't be hunting at this time. Anyway, there were huge numbers about, and you can see this one here. The seal actually gets more of a shock than me. It sort of glides over me. Yeah, I saw this massive dark shape above me. It's quite a surprise, and the seal just shocks and swims off. Anyway, huge numbers of small pollock, and actually at times the pollock was so dense that I couldn't see through them. I thought about just jabbing my gun around to try and spook some of the small ones so I could actually see through them. There were just thousands of them everywhere. And it quickly became apparent there were so many small pollock that it was going to be sort of difficult to even see a big one. Now what you see here is the moment one small fish spooks, all the other fish spook as well. So when there's loads of fish like that around, there's probably more chance of spooking a big fish. And that's probably why fish live in shoals, because they've got that safety in numbers. If one fish sees you and spooks, the whole shoal spooks as one. But the best thing about boat diving is that when you're on a mark that you don't think is very good, you can just move on straight away. Now, me and Si had a bit of a tactical plan for this day, and in the next little shot, I'll show you what it was. So the current off the Llyn Peninsula is really strong. You can see it denoted by those red lines, and what we're looking for is areas with a bit of depth, a lot of structure, and we're looking for these quite big slack areas. Just sort of behind the headlands, behind islands. What we're finding is the bigger pollock seem to hang in areas that are near strong current, but not quite in the full force of it. And again here, just drop down into quite a deep area. And this is an example of some quite poor spearfishing, if I'm honest. So there were huge numbers of fish around, and I completely misjudged the size of one of the pollock. And you know, I thought it was a fairly decent fish, but obviously you can see here, it really isn't. And actually shoot a pollock that's significantly smaller than the one right next to it, and frustrating, there's a red mullet right by it. And drop down again, and this time managed to take a much better pollock. Now, one of the things I'm always looking for are areas of structure within the overall structure. So you can see here there's some large boulders, a few drop-offs, and I try and drop down into areas that are maybe 4 to 6 meters away from those boulders. Quite often find the pollock sort of circle the boulders, and in the next 2 clips you'll see examples of that. Now this just shows you just how quickly big pollock can come in. They're very inquisitive, they're in the area, they normally come in pretty much straight away. You can see here plenty of structure here, giving me a bit of cover, and a big pollock just cruises in over the top of the structure, and I managed to get in a perfect shot. Now this next clip's a bit mixed. You'll see some example of good use of cover here, but I got in a bit too close to the cover, and because I was too close to the boulder, I saw the pollock drifting in, and I actually had to move position to get in for a shot, and because of this I spooked it. Now what I should have done is taken the shot straight away, but I waited, looked round to see if a bigger fish was there, ended up putting in a poor shot and losing the fish, so should have just pulled the trigger and had the chance. Now we moved on to some quite remote islands. I don't think these get speared very much because it costs a lot of fuel to get there. and you can see here the current surging through. You can see that line behind me where the current's going. That current is going fast, really fast, but I'm in the slack. And you can see here my fins kind of get blown over by the wind as I duck dive. End up putting in quite a poor duck dive, but no splash. And I headed down to a series of ledges, which instantly looked pretty productive. And again, a big pollock moved in pretty much straight away, just cruising through this gully. And I took the shot. It wasn't a massive fish, probably a bit bigger than the next clip, just going to make it look. Perspective's always interesting. It looks quite small there, but it's actually a reasonable fish. But knowing there were large numbers of fish in the area, we decided to carry on. I think one tip I got from one of the guys I dived with in Cornwall, this is a really good tip, is to never leave an area until you know there's no fish left. Now here, this is interesting. So if you watch my island video, you'll know I've had a lot of problems later on this season with my safety catch getting stuck. And here you can see I spook a pollock, but the advantage on a good breath hold is you can wait and let another one come in. And actually, I shoot a significantly larger pollock than the one I missed out on, so it worked out all right in the end. There's another example of a pollock coming in straight away. One of the guys on the Isle of Skye that I dive with, he said that if the pollock haven't started coming in within 50 seconds, just go straight back up. You know, I used to hold my breath for as long as I could, going through horrendous contractions, but apparently you're better off just moving, so I've been trying to do that. Now, you can see here the boat is very close to me. The reason that we always do that is in the areas we dive, there's a lot of jet skiers. Now, even if you've got a float, you know, they're absolute dickheads, to be honest. No, they'll come and sort of just look at your float and nearly run you over. So we got picked up again, and what me and Si decided to do after this was go for a bit of a drive with the boat, just cruise around really slowly, and try and look for some structure in the areas of current. That's a really beautiful coastline. It's nice to take a bit of a lunch break as well, you know, have an hour-long break, let your food go down a bit before diving again, and just sometimes really appreciate just how good the areas that we go to are. Now, Si's had quite a nice fish finder fitting on his boat, makes it so much easier. You just, I guess if you're boat diving without a fish finder, you're only getting, you know, half the experience. And Si dropped down to an area that he thought would be quite good, and he shot a fairly decent pollock pretty much straight away. Quite a nice fish there. Not Portland pose. This is actually a nice fish. You know, we don't really bother with the Portland poses. And bizarrely, I shot a mullet at 12 metres, and this is the deepest I've ever seen a mullet. So in North Wales, most of the mullet are really, really shallow. They seem to be a bit deep. When I was in Cornwall, there were a lot of mullets at 8 and 9 metres, but you know, I really was not expecting to get a mullet at that depth. Now, interestingly, the next dive after this, I saw a red mullet. And again, this is about 10 metres. I just was not expecting to see it. And they're quite small, quite skittish fish. And I probably should have taken the shot a bit earlier, but I end up, you know, letting it get further away. I'll take the shot, nick it through the back. I think it should be fine. And yeah, shame not to get it. And the seals were ever present throughout this dive. Now, we finished this session with some really nice fish, actually. You know, had an absolutely superb session, some cracking pollock. Si shot a very nice bass, had a couple of garfish and some mackerel as well on the feathers. That's really nice. Unfortunately though, I dropped Si's GoPro Hero 9 into the water, so rather than pay him 300 quid, I decided to go in and get it, and it was actually quite intimidating. It was the most intimidating dive of the day. It's only about 5 metres deep, but the viz in Pwllheli Marina is very poor, it's very muddy, and I took the torch down, and yeah, it was pretty horrible going down there, knowing there's probably ropes and fishing tackle and all sorts of structure in there, knowing you could knock yourself out coming back up, not being able to see anything. You know, I was very glad to see that GoPro first dive. Even more glad to not have to pay Si 350 quid for a new one. I'm sure he was glad to get his GoPro back as well.
The catch of the day.
Now, I hope you enjoyed that video. I've tried to put in as many tips as I can. In the next video, we're going to cover some of the dives we've done for bass. I'm going to look at some of the tactics that me and Si and some of the other guys have used to locate big shoals of bass like these. We've consistently found huge numbers of bass, which we weren't doing in previous years. And if you do enjoy this video and want to see more like this, then give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.